Welcome to the Family Photography Marketing Podcast, where we dive into the world of marketing and help you take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Fiona, a marketing expert with 10 years of experience in the family photography industry, and in each episode of this podcast, I'll be sharing my insights and strategies for successful marketing to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of digital and traditional marketing techniques. So whether you're just starting out or looking to fine-tune your marketing approach, this podcast has something for you. So join me and let's get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's special episode that features embarrassing stories of Fiona at Sessions. Now, what you need to know about me is I am, in general, a very embarrassing person. So I do embarrassing things all the time. And sometimes I feel like I'm on a 30 plus year reality show because of all the things that I do. So for things that are embarrassing to happen at work is of course to be expected. Before I started photography, I worked in a corporate job where I was constantly embarrassing myself, doing things like accidentally mailing my pay stub to my client and writing back to my boss when I thought I was writing to a coworker about how horrible an assignment was that she just gave to me. And I got to lean back in my chair and watch her face as she opened that email. Luckily, I was able to save myself at that job. But I just want you to know, I'm embarrassing. It's okay. I've come to own it. So let's start with story number 1. Now, this was a newborn session at one of those fancy neighborhoods. So it was an in-home session. It's not a neighborhood that has a gate, but it's patrolled by a security guard. And whenever I have a session, I always get there really early. So in this case, I was about 20 minutes early. And I had stopped at Starbucks on the way because I was deciding for some unknown reason to do the keto diet. And the only food that I could eat at Starbucks were these kale chips. So I was sitting there 20 minutes early, probably a block away from the house, eating the kale chips. And I ate most of them. I don't think anyone can really finish off a whole bag of those things. They are so dry. But I pulled down my mirror to check my teeth, and my teeth were just full of little kale bits. So I was like, oh crap, I gotta floss. Well, I didn't have any floss. The only thing I had to floss with was the kale bag itself. So I was like, oh, I'll just use the kale bag to floss the kale out of my teeth. So I'm proceeding to do that. And then I wedge the kale bag in between my teeth to the point that it's stuck in there. And at the exact same moment, someone knocks on my window, which of course scares the crap out of me. So I go over and it is the security guard of this neighborhood. So I roll down the window while cradling the kale bag, which is stuck in my teeth, underneath my chin. And I try to explain to him what I'm doing there, which of course he can't really understand me, there being a kale bag stuck in my teeth and all. So at that moment, I decide to yank the kale bag super hard to get it out of my teeth, which causes the kale bag to explode, and many bits of kale flew out the open window onto this person. So it's starting off great. When I'm finally able to speak to him after I try to clean the kale off of the surrounding area, I explain that I'm a newborn photographer, I'm just early for a session, and that is what I'm doing in the neighborhood he's trying to patrol. So he says, okay, that's fine, goes back to his car, but doesn't leave. So I wait a few more minutes, and I drive to what I think is the client house. So I get out of my car, I have my backpack on, and I go to the front stoop, and I ring the doorbell, and I take off my shoes. And I do that every time because I never wear shoes into a client's home. So I knock and knock and knock. No one's coming to the door. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Then finally, this woman comes to the door. She's like 80. And I was like, hi, I'm Fiona. I'm here for newborn photos. The security guard parked at the bottom of her driveway, just staring at both of us. So she's assessing the situation. She has a security guard at the bottom of her driveway. She has a woman with no shoes on saying she's going to do newborn photos. So she says, newborn photos, what are you talking about? I'm 80 years old, and slams the door in my face. So I pick up my shoes and walk sock-footed back to my car, get in my car, drive to the next house, the security guard slowly driving behind me. This has got to be the most exciting day this man has had in like 10 years. So I get out of my car with my socked feet and I walk to the next door, which I'm hoping is actually my client's house. Knock on the door. They come to the door. I briefly try to explain to them that the security guard is worried about me. So we both turn, wave to the security guard, and he slowly drives off. I didn't have the heart to tell my client the whole tale because I really didn't want to embarrass myself fully. But that definitely is one of the top stories. This next one also happened at a newborn session. So when I go to a newborn session, the top that I wear is very important because inevitably I'm going to pit out. I just get really sweaty at sessions and I don't know why. I'm running around usually. If there's an older sibling, I'm trying to make them laugh. I move a ton. So one of the main criteria for whatever shirt I'm wearing is I don't want it to show any pit stains. And on this particular day, the only shirt that fit that requirement was a really stupid shirt for the environment that I was going into, but it was kind of like a lower cut situation. And it has to be noted that I do not have boobs really. So the bra I wear is just sort of like almost like a sports bra type bra, but it has like an insert. So this happened to be a session where the mom was extremely frazzled because there was an older sibling who was, if you've done in-home newborn, you know what the type of child behavior that I'm talking about, where they've just had a snack, they're on level 10 of excitement, they're kind of hard to contain. They're going around to every room in the house. So the mom is running around trying to contain this child, and I'm pretty sure she was trying to get him dressed. So I was in the room with the dad, and the baby was on the bed, and I was standing above the baby to take pictures. And I didn't notice, but throughout all the moving I was doing, I had worked my bra insert up. So when I went to bend over to take pictures of this baby, the bra insert just sort of fell out of my shirt and floated like a little leaf to land atop the baby's face, landed on the baby's face. So the dad, who's standing right there, just without a word, picked my bra insert up off the baby's face and handed it back to me, where I wasn't going to shove it into my bra with him standing there. So I just shoved it in my back pocket and I shot the rest of the session with half of a bra insert sticking out of my back jeans pocket. Okay, let's go to some outdoor shoots. So if you are, familiar with the Pacific Northwest and you've ever shot on driftwood, then you will know this to be true. Driftwood, if it is even the slightest bit damp, those things are like ice logs. So I had a session at the beach, and this was before I paid a ton of attention to tides, which of course I do now, having learned from this. And on this particular beach, the tides were up so far that we really only could be on the driftwood or in the ocean. So we were on the driftwood. It was so slippery. And I was wearing these rain boots, but they were my oldest rain boots, and I'd pretty much worn the soles completely off, so I had no grip. So the first time I fell directly onto my chest and knocked the wind out of myself. So that was a bad fall, but I held it together. The family was concerned, but only for my safety. I fell again. This time slipped backwards onto my back and kind of rolled down several logs like a bowling ball. And by this time, I could tell that the dad was more concerned that maybe something was wrong with me. And it wasn't until the third slip where I actually slipped and went through all the logs until my head was just sticking up like a little turtle that I heard him ask his wife if I was drunk. I was not drunk. I just had the worst possible shoes, and these were the slipperiest logs ever invented. So luckily, I was able to explain to that family that I'm just the klutziest, clumsiest person ever, and that they do not have to worry that I showed up to their family session with their 2-year-old intoxicated. About a week later, I was at another session, and this session featured a pond, which was very lovely. So I was standing at the edge of the pond, and the family was standing kind of in a field. And I took a step backwards and did that sort of comical slide where you're just sliding backwards. You can't stop yourself. You're still upright. And in this case, of course, my main fear was my camera. Well, what I didn't realize was that this was some sort of specially designed cliff pond. So I slipped all the way down the short shoreline and then proceeded to fall deep into the pond, and the pond water went up to my chest. Somehow, I was able to hold my camera up above my head. The best part of this story is this was on a fall day. It was really chilly. And that session was the first of 6 mini sessions. So I did shoot 6 mini sessions completely soaked with pond water. Okay, I have 2 more. If you can believe it. This is not even all of them. All right. Last summer, I don't know if this mom is going to be listening to this, but I was shooting a family session at the mountain, and I try to explain to all my families that, like, I usually fall at least one time, but it's usually like a slip or a slide out. It's nothing too serious. But in this case, I ate it so hard. I put them in the spot. I walked backwards. I fell backwards over a rock, and then I just was laying on my back. I wear a backpack that's pretty full, and it's not a photography backpack. It's packed full of all kinds of things. So I kind of got turtled, stuck upside down, and they had to help me out of that situation. I was kind of stuck in a small selection of boulders that I fell directly into. So there's really nothing that messes up the snuggly mood of a family than the photographer just eating it and getting stuck on their back to where everyone has to break up the pose and come remove the photographer from the boulders. Okay, this last one I'll tell you is not really my embarrassing story. It's a client's. So I shoot up in the mountains, and there's no bathrooms up there. It's a bathroom-free zone. If you need to use the bathroom, like, you gotta pee like a bear, which is what I call it. Sometimes kids have never done that. My kids, we have acreage, and so my kids grew up peeing like a bear from the time that they stopped wearing diapers. So oftentimes, the first time kids pee outside is at a session of mine if they happen to go up to the mountains. So in this case, it was a little girl. She said she had to pee. So I explained to Dad the way, because he had never helped her pee outside, I explained the way that I hold my kids, which basically you hold them under the backs of the knees, and they can just pee, and it's pretty simple. Well, he kind of misinterpreted and was holding her so that her back was to his chest. So, in the shock of all shocks, after she peed, she pooped out the giantest poop ever right onto his brand new boot. And the session had not started yet. And it was one of those poops that's like quite alarming, that can come out of a small child. You don't even know how it's possible. So it was a really good bonding experience for all of us to work together to deal with this situation that we had now provided the trail. And we got the poop figured out, and we got Dad's shoe all cleaned up, and we were good to go. And of course, it made a wonderful story. Okay, wait, I have one more I forgot that happened the next day after the poop. So I had another mountain shoot, and I had gone home that night, and my girls, so I carry my extra cards for my camera in a little box. And I had just gotten this box, and it's really cute, and my daughter found it, and she didn't really understand what it was, and so she unloaded all the cards out of it and went and did something with it, pretended it was a purse or a wallet, brought it back. I didn't see that she had unloaded all the cards, and I put it in my camera backpack. So we got up to the mountain, and we walked about 30 minutes out to this ridge. And so then I went to pull out my camera. I didn't have a card in my camera, which is pretty rare. I usually preload them, but I didn't that day. But I thought, oh, no worries. I always set myself up for success. And I went to my little card pack and there was no card in there. And the amount of panic that went through my body was like a lightning bolt. So I told the family, I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot my card. I forgot my card pack, but I have an extra card in my car, which of course I wasn't sure if I had an extra card in my car. I do now. I keep one in there as an emergency. So I ran. Remember, we had hiked out. So I sprinted. So I come across this group of guys. This is a very popular scenic trail, and all of them had big cameras. So I was so excited, and I said, oh my gosh, do any of you guys have an SD card? This thing just happened. And somehow all 3 of those people shot film and none of them had an SD card. So I keep running down the trail, full speed. I'm sweating. I'm a wreck. Come across this older couple. I say to the guy, I say, he has a DSLR. I said, do you happen to have an extra card? This thing happened, whatever. He goes, yes, I do. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. What are the chances? So he gave me the card. I run back to my family. Poor people are just standing there waiting for me. And I start shooting and I get about 200 images in and I press down on my shutter and my camera won't fire because I have already used up all of the available space on this tiny card. I didn't even look at the size, but it was basically like the JPEG that comes in a DSLR so you can take test shots in the store. And I didn't want to let the family know because I'd already put them through so much. So what I did that session is as we moved from place to place, I would just peek through and cull my images as we walked. So by the end of the session, I pretty much had the full gallery that I ended up delivering to them and no extra no extra images because I had no extra room on that card. So that one, while embarrassing, is one of my favorite stories of my ingenuity that I just came to the plate and made it work. And the family never knew that is what had happened. They love their gallery. I love their gallery. But it was so nerve-wracking to get to the session and realize you don't have the proper equipment. So the reason I wanted to tell these is because we all have moments of embarrassment or feeling like maybe you're not professional, or you can go back and replay these things over and over and over in your head. But at the end of the day, as long as no one got hurt, it's fine. And the more you can just laugh at yourself and find the humor in these stories and realize there's beauty in the way that you get to experience things in this job that you wouldn't get to experience in any other job, the more you can just let yourself fail and flop and do embarrassing things sometimes. So if you have done those things, just know that I am right here with you. All right, I will see you guys on Monday for the next episode that I promise will be all about marketing and not about embarrassing stories.